Hello, my Icebergs. Our today's guest is Rajiv Vaishnav, sir. He is a co-founder and managing partner at Cornerstone Venture Partners. It's a venture capital fund for enterprise SaaS businesses. He was heading ecosystem and partnership at Reliance Industries Gen Next Venture Fund and Geo Gen Next Innovation Hub. Earlier, he was the vice president at NASSCOM. He played a key role in establishing TIE in India and was the first director and co-founder of TIE Mumbai. This is a part 1 of Rajiv sir's episode, and we talked about his iceberg story. If you watch it carefully, you will feel the magic of life. Well, it's not a filmy story, it's a real life example. If you do your job sincerely, then there is a someone who is watching you and will give you the biggest opportunity in life. So, believe in yourself and enjoy this episode. But don't forget to note down your learnings. Let's grow together. Hello, my icebergs. Welcome to the Iceberg Show with Saurabh Puranik. Here, we share character enriching and entrepreneurial content by uncovering the minds of successful people. So, please make sure to subscribe us and share these videos with your friends and family and become a part of their growth story. I request you to note down the learnings of this video in your diary or in the comment box. So, let's grow together. Hello, Rajiv sir. Thank you for accepting my invite, and I welcome you on the Iceberg Show with Saurabh Puranik.
Hey, thank you, Saurabh. Thank you very much.
So let's open this episode with my first section, that is you as an entrepreneur and you as a person. So my question is, could you please tell us about your iceberg story? That is how you started your journey and what was your learnings of this whole journey?
Oh, wow. Because this question encompasses the entire life, because you are saying learnings and how I started my journey. So, but then I will restrict it to my current entrepreneurial kind of a venture that I am in right now. And as you know, right, I mean, you mentioned also that I run a VC fund. I have founded a VC fund. But then even to talk about that, I may have to kind of connect the dots in the past. And that is very interesting. Let me just share that with you. So there was a time when I was called for launching TIE in India. Mr. Harish Mehta, my mentor, picked me up from a stage performance. And that's another story, and we will tell you about that. He picked me up from the stage performance. I was performing on the stage. I was a compere of a show. And he came to me and he said, "Hey, we have met somewhere." I said, "Yes, Harish bhai, I'm with Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and you are on a committee, and I had come to meet you in your office." He said, "But then how come you are here for a musical program?" I said, "No, that's my passion. I love poetry. I love music." So he said, "Keep this passion on and come to me if at all you need any help." So I thought that, it's a euphoric kind of a reaction, because you see something, you like something, and you say, "Hey, I love it." But then it fizzles down, and I was expecting that to happen. So I didn't register what he said, in a sense that I said, "Yeah, that's so nice of you to have said all this, but thank you very much." And I just moved on. But 2 days later, he sent me an invite to TIE, launch of TIE in India. And this was 9th of December, 1999, right? And so I thought, looking at TIE, and then I searched TIE, and I realized that it's a Silicon Valley-based organization, nurturing entrepreneurs and promoting entrepreneurship and all that. And then I said, I'm Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. So there is India, there is America, and TIE is the Indus entrepreneurs. That means entrepreneurs from the Indus Valley. So I said, there is an Indo-American connect, and therefore I got the invitation. So I accepted the invitation and I went for the event. And that was at ICICI, the tower in Mumbai that was built very new. And Mr. Kamath hosted the TIE launch in the country. And that was the first launch in Mumbai. I went into the event, and I was coming out of the elevator on the 4th floor where the event was, poolside. And as I walked out, Mr. Devang Mehta and Harish Mehta were standing. So Harish Bhai said, "Hey, Rajiv, Devang, I was talking about him." So Devang said, "Hi, I'm Devang Mehta." I said, "Of course, I know you." So he said, "Oh, okay. So enjoy the party and we'll be in touch." I said, "Thank you." So just a courtesy, and I moved on. Enjoyed the party. It was great. Some announcements of Satyam Infoway acquiring Samachar.com, and Rajesh Jain and Mr. Ram Raju all were there, and it was great party. 2 days later, I got a call from Harish Bhai's office that Rajiv, come over and meet me. So I went to his Andheri office. So my office was in Churchgate. I came to Andheri. I met him. I thought he must be wanting to discuss because he was the chair of IT committee at Indo-American Chamber. So I thought that must be the discussion. So I went there and he told me that Rajiv, take over TIE. I said, Harish Bhai, whatever little that I know, TIE is like technology-centric entrepreneurship. In those days, it was purely technology-centric entrepreneurship. So I said, Harish Bhai, I'm not from technology. I don't understand technology. I said 15 years ago, nobody knew technology, you will learn. I said, yeah, but Harish Bhai, I was looking at Mr. Kanwal Rekhi and all those people, Suhas Patil and Desh Deshpande, and they are all angel investors, venture capital, and I don't understand finance. Harish Bhai said, I have confidence in you. You have confidence in yourself? I said, yes, that I have. He said, jump. So I said, okay. So I believed in him, and a pure leap of faith, I jumped. This was 20 years ago, 1999 December. Right? And today, in 2018, actually, when I left Reliance to start a venture fund, a technology-centric venture fund, within the span of 20 years, from where I told Harish Mehta, I don't understand technology, I don't understand finance, 20 years down the line, I started a tech-based venture fund, right? So that's what life is all about. That's where the learnings are all about. And when you are looking at how I started my entrepreneurial journey, credit goes to Reliance. I had an amazing experience in Reliance. And, and that again is a very interesting story. I mean, let me tell you that, because as the flow will come, thoughts will come, I'll just share that with you. And so what happened was, for 13 years, so after TIE, and let me connect the dots so that there is a proper link, at least chronological link. So TIE, unfortunately, had to kind of 9/11 happen, and America was shut for a while. And because of that, the angel investors lost their halo, lost their wings. They were not visible. The technology pipeline dried out because there was no major activity happening around. And that was the time, unfortunately, Devang Mehta passed away, and very early, 12th of April, in fact. So 2001. And then NASSCOM had a lot of, introspection and how to go about it and things like that. The new leadership to step into Devang's shoes and all. Mr. Kiran Karnik took over. And Mr. Karnik took over, then they wanted to decentralize NASSCOM. NASSCOM was solely focused in Delhi, because Delhi being a political capital of the country, NASSCOM as an association for the industry was there. And they wanted to then expand the organization. So NASSCOM reached out to me to say that, hey, Rajiv, why don't you join us? Because we need a person like you. And thankfully, because of TIE, I was in touch with all the IT leadership right from the day one. And so I spoke to my mentors and I said, sir, what should I do? What do you think? So Harish Bhai, Kanwal Rekhi, and others who were there, Mr. Vijay Mukhi. And so I spoke to all of them, and they said that, Rajiv, I think this is the best time for you to kind of contribute at NASSCOM, because TIE is almost at the lowest. And my problem is, that at the end of the day, if my contribution is not more than my earnings, I'm not feeling comfortable. So when I go to bed, I see that whether today my contribution to my organization is more than the salary that I have earned. And if that doesn't match in favor of my contribution, then I'm very uncomfortable. So I was telling, Harish Bhai that, Harish Bhai, I have nothing much to do in Thai. What should I do? What should I do? And then this NASSCOM discussion started. So Harish Bhai was like, yeah, Rajiv, join NASSCOM. And in any case, we are one family, NASSCOM Thai, so you can help Thai and do whatever, but do it this way. So I was wearing two hats. I was working for NASSCOM and then I was helping Thai. And then eventually I kind of had an executive director for Thai employed, and then I trained them and the team and all that. And then slowly, NASSCOM drifted me from a lot of work, a lot of excitement, a lot of activities. So my time for Thai reduced because the team started taking over. And I think that was a great moving on. It was a smooth transition. And then for 13 years, fast forward, I was with NASSCOM. July 2015, when Reliance reached out to me and said, why don't you consider joining us and lead the partnerships? I realized that, Reliance Industries, they had a venture fund, a corporate venture fund, and they were looking for somebody to lead the partnership and ecosystem development. And I was thinking like 16 years in a not-for-profit organization like between Thai and NASSCOM, and whether I should, because वो शोले का डायलॉग याद आ रहा था कि तुम्हारे बाजुओं में भी उतना दम है कि वक्त की कीमत ने उसे खोखला कर दिया. And I said, no, let me just try it out. And coming from Reliance was a huge opportunity. So I said, okay, let me try. So I said yes, and then my worry was, how will I communicate within NASSCOM? So I was fortunate. We were traveling together. My president at that time was Mr. R. Chandrasekhar. R. Chandrasekhar was former Telecom Secretary, Government of India. And we were traveling together to Vizag. And I said, sir, I need a ride with you. So he said, yeah, come on. So from Vizag Airport to Novotel, 45 minutes of drive. And I said, yeah, this is great time. I can pitch my potential exit. So let me figure it out how it works, because 13 years and my involvement with NASSCOM and in every activity of NASSCOM was like brilliant. And I was fortunate to have worked with all the presidents of NASSCOM, like Devang Mehta, Kiran Karnik, Mr. Som Mittal, then RC. So I was like, how do I talk about it? And then I said, sir, I got an offer. So he said, from where? I said, Reliance. Which? Mukesh Bhai, go. And I said, before the car could come out of the parking lot, I got the permission. So I was so surprised. But then he expanded his reaction. And he said that, look, Rajiv, when I was the telecom secretary, I had interaction with Mukesh Bhai a couple of times, and I could see the vision that he has for India. And there is no one very close to his vision. So you will enjoy working with him. And that really happened. When you get into an organization and then when you realize the power of the organization, what I liked about Reliance and what I learned about Reliance was that the focus on excellence was at a different level altogether. The commitment, very simple, two simple rules. And that is what is very motivating. Two simple rules in Reliance is that if I invest 1 rupee in a business, how much more I can get out of that 1 rupee as against anybody, any competition. And second important thing is how much time I take to execute a project as compared to the whole world. So the emphasis on capital efficiency and productivity was so much that, and if, like, Vidya Balan had said in that movie, entertainment. When you ask Reliance as to what's the power of success, it's execution. Look at Jio and the success of Jio, right? Jio is nothing new. It's not a rocket science. It's a telecom service. And then when you look at all other competition, Jio was one to acquire 100 million customers in 170 days. Though there were there were other elements to this success. like Aadhaar and everything else, verification, KYC, and all that was made easy and all that. But still, the focus on execution was phenomenal. And that is what is a great learning, that you don't compromise on certain things, you don't compromise. At the same time, you embrace ecology, you challenge your limits. I mean, there are multiple stories that I learned when you are in the job, you realize. And that is where, my partner, my colleague, Abhishek Prasad, my colleague, my partner, Abhishek Prasad, he was heading the investments. I was looking after partnerships. And so this was a pre-geo time. And we had the best of the opportunities from all over the world. Like all the best startups in India used to come to us because they wanted to get associated with this huge 100 million consumer opportunity. There were startups from Israel, from Canada, from Silicon Valley, and we were kind of in the midst of the best of the brains, best of the entrepreneurs. And that was the time we started realizing that here we are working for a corporate venture fund, and they have their priorities. They have their constraints in terms of whether a business is going to raise their hands to work for a startup, and then they will decide to invest in a startup, not to invest, how much to invest, and things like that. And there were very genuine corporate concerns that applies to any corporate. But as Abhishek and I, we were seeing that, there is a huge value that one can create, and can we plunge into that? So I think in October, we talked to our chairman and we said, this is what is the plan. We are doing something like this. We are conceptualizing Cornerstone, and we want to, plunge into that. And with some resistance, but the transition took some time and all that. March 2018, we stepped out of Reliance and started working on Cornerstone. And we got SEBI approval by almost end of 18. We started fundraise. So I think this is the journey. This is how the genesis happened. That if you are sensitive about your environment, if you are passionate about doing something which can add value, I think your journey can start. And that's what happened with me. So I'm very happy about it. Sorry, a long answer to a short question.
No, actually, I can recall one quote of Richard Branson, sir, and that can summarize your journey, which is that
Wow.
If somebody is believing in you, so you should accept that proposal and then figure out like how we can make an impact on that particular project. So I think that was your like motivating factor for you to start your journey.
Absolutely, that's true.
But sir,
Yes.
Over these years, like what habits shaped your career? Because your daily habits actually made that impact, and and you also able to deliver with those habits. So, what habits shaped your career?
So I like this word habit when you are talking about it, right? I mean, it's a new word in terms of the question that you are asking and the answer that you are seeking. But it's a very interesting word. So when you look at the word habit, why it is called habit? And you know the meaning of habit, right? When I'm saying I have a habit of this, or I have a habit of that, that means something that I can't leave so easily, right? That is habit. So habit, if you remove H, a bit remains. If you remove A, bit remains. If you remove B, it remains. So something will remain in you even if you move on into your life, right? And this is exactly what has happened with me. So a couple of things, and I think interestingly, and I will touch certain aspects of my learnings, which may be interesting. So first of all, I was fortunate to get exposure to spirituality at a very young age. So I was 14 and I listened to Ramayana, and Murari Babu, he was narrating Ramayana, and somehow it so happened that I was there because my dad, when he went there, he told me, next day he came and he said, Rajiv, you must come and listen to him. And I said, why? He said, okay, forget about Ramayana, but you love shairis, you love couplets, right? I said, yeah, that I love. He speaks some amazing couplets. So I said, okay. So for the temptation of learning new couplets and understanding, I went there. But once I went there, I never came back. So whenever then he used to conduct these discourses, I used to follow him in Mumbai and things like that. So according to me, I think it is very important that at an early age, you get some exposure to spirituality. And I'm not saying religion as spirituality. Spirituality as that, today I have friends from all walks of life, and I enjoy every amazing thing that the religion has to offer. But the point is, that will start anchoring you in your life. That will start giving you stability. That will start helping you to look at things differently. And that really helped me. So when you're asking what kind of habits, so one major habit, and if I call it habit, is that I liked spirituality. Okay, so I went deeper into it, not to an extent of fanatism, because I mean, my age was also like I was growing up, and yes, I had, a lot of enjoyment and fun with friends and all that. But the point is that subconscious anchoring was happening. So that was one. Second is from the beginning, and I borrowed this word from Dr. Mashelkar. Dr. Mashelkar was our chairman at Reliance for Innovation Services, our accelerator and fund. So he always says that I am dangerously optimistic. And when I look at it myself, yes, I'm dangerously optimistic. I always see something good out of things that are going to happen. And because of this combination of both, I go with the flow. So I don't know whether it is good or bad. I'm not making any judgment on myself. But looking at my life, I feel I'm very happy, very satisfied. I'm not a So I'm not very proud of it. But at the same time, I don't regret, because circumstances and everything was different. I was good in studies, but not that great. I had a lot of diversions, extracurricular activities. I was very active in debates and recitation and dramatics and all those part. And I was in the class, in the school, in the ranking. I used to be second rank holder, third rank holder, sometimes first rank holder, kind of a study education there. But as I said, nothing so extraordinary. But I didn't regret, because my focus also was like that whenever my principal would send a note to the class that Rajiv is nominated for this debate competition in this particular school and things like that, and I used to go. And one of my teacher did comment that you are burning your house and going for pilgrimage. So, there is a saying in Gujarati that ghar balina tirat karwa jai chhe, that just in order to go to pilgrimage, you are burning your house. So why are you sacrificing your studies, and why are you going? But then, life is like, you can't predict, right? So the job in Thai was because I was comparing on a stage for a patriotic show. Post Kargil, we were doing a musical program on patriotic songs, and I was comparing that. And again, the passion for communication, the passion for how I can articulate myself better to be understood, and things like that. How I can connect with people, and if you look at my journey, and I don't know if we have time to expand on all these aspects, or not even expand. If I quickly summarize, let me tell you, I am BSc, 58 point some percentage from Bhavans College in Delhi, right? No great academic career. But soon after that, while I was in last year of my BSc, my graduation, I wanted to do some business, and my friend was doing going to do a textile manufacturing business. And in those days, and this I'm talking about 1980, so 79, 80 was the time when I thought I want to do something, and I will start working for building a business. So a company that we registered called Classic Textiles, and I joined Sasmira to do a CWMMFF. There was a certification program on this textile technology, and I started doing that. life took turn. There was some escalation in cost due to some scam in Maharashtra and in those days. And we couldn't execute because I come from a very middle class family. And my father at that time, and though I'm really proud of him, he told me that when he came from Saurashtra to Gujarat, he had 2 rupees in his pocket. Now he has 25 rupees savings because he was an employee in a shipping company. And he says, this 25,000 in those days was big money. He said, take it and do whatever you want. I don't care, even if you blow it off. So that support I got, and I plunged into this business venture, which failed. So my friend's father was a huge executive in a pharmaceutical industry. He said, Rajiv, your strength is communication. Why don't you jump into pharma? So I said, okay, I think that's a good idea. So I jumped into pharma. I started getting interviews, and there was a Dutch company, Organon India. Now it is called Infar. It's a Dutch company, but headquartered here. I mean, India headquarters was in Calcutta. So I was selected. I went there. I got further selected into the top 3, top 4 that they would scrutinize the candidates. And because of that, the managing director told me that, Rajiv, I want a Gujarati boy to develop my Ahmedabad market. So, and Gujarat market. So you should go there. I couldn't say no because I wanted to be in Bombay with my family. And, but then after getting trained, after getting so much input and learnings from a company, I couldn't say no to them. So I went to Ahmedabad. I was in pharma. I was a medical representative. I started, building those. So reached out to Kapadwanj, Balasinor, the Panchmahal district in Gujarat, and Nadiad and Anand, and the entire, it works, right? So that was a great learning. But during that time, one of my father's friend was running a business of silver brazing alloys. And he was looking for somebody who can help scale their sales and marketing, because they were traditional business, not even group, not even house, family actually. So father and a son combination were doing some decent business, and silver brazing alloys are the low melting brazing alloys. And they wanted somebody to help in marketing and expansion of business and all that. So he offered me a partnership, and he said, he talked to my dad and he said, Rajiv can become my partner and we can work together and all. And we had a very close family relation. So my dad called me once and said, hey, there is an opportunity. I jumped at it. I said, okay, this is great. I wanted to do something of my own. So I joined him. 4 years passed. Unfortunately, every time that I would approach him about what happened to our partnership and all that, he would say, yeah. I mean, you are a signing authority. You can sign and draw whatever money you want. I said, no. I mean, let's make it formal, and then I'll do whatever I want to do. So anyways, 4 years passed, and I was like, nothing happened. And after that, he told me, I'm sorry, Rajiv, I fear that you have learned more than my sons, and you may take over my business, so I can't make you my partner. So I said, fine, thank you, no regrets. I've learned a lot. Thank you for the opportunity. There was no point in, debating, arguing with him. I moved on. I met one of my father's friend, Dr. Arun Vakil, at Bayer India. He was the PR head there. While talking to him, he mentioned to me, he said, Rajiv, have you tried an association? I said, Arun, by what association you're talking? And association is for retired people and, cyclo-styling in those days. Cyclo-styling circulars distributing among members. There is no fun. Arun Bhai said, you don't know the potential of an association. Why don't you try? And there is a position at Indo-American Society, which is a socio-cultural organization, that you must try. So I trusted him. I said, okay, let me try. I'm looking for something interesting, and I think this seems to be interesting. So I joined there as assistant secretary, and I had a secretary in the organization. That was the turning point in my life. There, on the executive council of this Indo-American Society, and Indo-American Society was a management training organization, right? Not-for-profit organization, and they were like best of the Dr. Sharu Rangnekar, Mr. Suresh Lulla, and Mr. Venkat Iyer, and Professor Rishi Kumar Pandya, and the best of the trainers were coming on that platform. And I was coordinating with them. So I'm proud to say now that I have played a role in launching Dr. J.M. Juran of America. He's the world's quality guru programs in India. And I launched that, and if I try and recall, 8th of December 1988 was the date when we first launched that program at the Oberoi then at the rooftop. So there were, and the executive council was having people like Mr. Viren Shah, Mr. Keshub Mahendra, Mr. Nani Palkhiwala, Mr. Deepak Parekh, Dr. Arun Vakil, Mr. K.S. Neelkandan of Pfizer's, Mr. Pradeep Madhavji of Thomas Cook, and the host, and the US Counsel General. And these were the people. And then you interact with them, you observe them, you learn from them, how they communicate, what they communicate, and all those kind of stuff. I was not knowing this. I was not knowing the growth that I was getting there, but I realized it much later in my life. So 3.5 years there at Indo-American Society, and I was thoroughly enjoying what I was doing with a lot of contribution there. And I learned, and I thank Dr. Vakil. And you know what's the importance of a great mentor in your life? And I'll give you a small example here. My first interview after Dr. Vakil told me that join Indo-American Society, and I agreed to that. Mr. V.C. Nanavati, chairman of Borosil class, was the president of Indo-American Society at that time. Sterling Apartments on Pedder Road on 11th floor he was staying. And I had an interview on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning. And Dr. Vakil tells me, and I was like, 26 years old. And Dr. Vakil tells me, Rajiv, your interview is at 11 o'clock. And Mr. Nanavati is residing on the 11th floor in the Sterling apartment. And the building is like 20 floors or 20 stories, whatever. You should be, first of all, wear a suit, wear a decent tie, polished shoes, be at the ground floor at 11:15. Because if the elevator has gone up, it will take time to come down, at least 5-7 minutes. So you should then take the elevator and go to 11th floor, but don't press the bell. Wait for 11 o'clock and then press the bell. Now, these are all very small, minute, micro inputs. And sometimes we feel irritated that today's youngster, if somebody tries to tell that, do this, like, come on, man, I know everything, you old, don't, all that. But in those days, it was a different situation. And I was coming from a very non-corporate background. So I was really not aware of what are the things that one has to be sensitive about. And I was learning. And that was the first day of my, not even job, I was interviewed by, by Mr. V.C. Nanavati. When I pressed the bell, he opened the door himself, looked at the wall clock, which was ringing, 11 strikes. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, welcome. Now, I was selected there, right? So to continue the journey, and I'll continue it fast, a gentleman came to Indo-American Society and he sat with me. I had a good interaction with him. I offered him coffee and we were talking about what you guys are doing, what I'm doing and all that. I asked him, he says, I'm from Air Express International, an American freight forwarding company. So I said, poor guy, he must have thought American freight forwarding company and this is Indo-American Chamber. So I told him, I said, we are a socio-cultural organization and there's a trade body which is separate. So he said, no, I'm looking for developing India market and I want you to join me. I'll send you an offer letter and you will consider. I said, okay. Again, same feeling that, first interaction and he's offering me a job and all, it's okay. So I didn't bother. But then after 1.5, 2 months, I got an offer letter. I went to Mr. Deepak Parekh, Dr. Arun Vakil, and I asked him, I said, sir, this is an offer letter I'm getting. What should I do? So Mr. Parekh looked at the offer letter and he said, I know this company and I know the person who has signed this offer letter. I think this is a great company. You must join because society will never be able to give you this kind of a jump. And the jump was like, I was earning 5,500 rupees and the company was offering me 12,500. So, but then those days, and the kind of jump, which is more than 100% and all that, was awesome. So he said, we'll not be able to offer you this jump. You must go. Dr. Vakil said, I can't stop you. The offer is so tempting. We'll miss you, but you go. So with the permission of my mentors, with the permission of my employers, I went on. I joined AEI, American Freight Forwarding Company. Now this is an entirely new beast, and I had to learn all over again. And I completed 4 successful years there. I went to US. I made, customer calls. We call it consignee selling. In Charlotte, I was talking to Ingersoll Rand and multiple such companies who were clients and offices in India and things like that. So we had a great time together. My entire senior management left AEI and joined Emery Worldwide. So I left along with them, and I started Emery Worldwide, and Emery Worldwide in India. So I was sitting with my agent, and we were, working and all that. I was sales and marketing. But then in between, General Motors wanted to come to India, and they wanted to establish, they were establishing their plant in Halol in Gujarat. And they were looking for a part distribution center in Mumbai, outside the octroi limits of Mumbai, closer to Nhava Sheva port and things like that. Very specific requirement. And General Motors was Emery's top global customer. 5% of our global revenue was coming from just one customer, and that was General Motors. So for the first time in my life, in those days, and this was not even able to connect the dots in terms of the year, but maybe 96, 97 time frame, 96, 97, yeah. The first global conference call that I participated, that on one side there was General Motors senior management was talking, then Emery senior management was talking, then my regional heads were talking. So my regional office was in Singapore. So all my bosses were in Singapore. So they were talking. And I was the only guy in India because I was the only person in Mumbai to manage Emery Worldwide, right? So they are telling me that, Rajiv, you will have to find a place or a warehouse for General Motors, and you will have to do this and you will have to do that. And I'm saying, I'll do it. So what's the requirement? 25,000 square feet with a ramp, with Teflon flooring, coating, and all that, with inventory management system and this and that. And everything was French and Latin at that time for me, but I said, okay, we'll do it. I started looking out for the warehouse of 25,000 without a pillar and without any obstruction and things like that. Sorry. Unfortunately, there was none available at that time. And I had to somehow find a solution, because General Motors, we could not antagonize. They were depending on Emery. Emery was depending on me. And I was the only person here. I reached out to many people, and one guy said, we had a window of 2.5 months. General Motors wanted to launch their part distribution center activity within 2.5 months. And I was talking to a guy who promised me that we'll do it. I said, what? I said, Rajiv Saab, don't worry, we'll manage it. Okay. So there is a place called the Hisar Mori, outskirts of Mumbai, between Taloja and Kalyan, Shil Fata Kalyan, very famous place. But when you go there, it was a field. And this vice president of General Motors, he was acting like a devil's advocate all the time. And he was pushing me, which was good. Mr. Wills, I still remember him as I'm talking to you. He would click a picture of a buffalo grazing on that field, and he would post globally to say General Motors warehouse site, a PDC they used to call it, part distribution center site. And immediately I will get a call from my boss in Singapore. Hey, Rajiv, the picture that do you see that picture? And do you think that is the place? I said, boss, there is no alternative. This is the place. But then with the help of the landlord and the entire small team that we had, in fact, I had no team. I was the only guy, but his contractors and others, we worked as a family. Middle of the night also, I was sitting there. I had a bag in which I used to carry a tiffin. My car was my office. I used to have a small typewriter. So anything that, and I used to go to a nearby post office to fax the updates on the site and all that. And within 2 months, we ordered forklifts, we ordered inventory management system, we got the software from Ann Arbor University on inventory management, and we recruited people to manage the warehouse, and everything was done. And I got a team, and General Motors was amazed with within the timeline that we achieved this. I was made logistic manager all India, and my head office was in Delhi. My managing director was sitting in Delhi, and they were like very appreciative of the work that we did. And for Emery, it was a huge achievement for their big customer. So it was all good. But then one day, my managing director called me and said, Rajiv, you are heading logistics and our head office is in Delhi. I want you to shift to Delhi. Now, that was a big problem because I was not ready to shift. I had obligations in the family. My wife had delivered twins and I had 3 kids. They were growing and I didn't want to dislocate the family and I couldn't stay away from them. So all the emotional, typical Guju family bonding kind of weaknesses or strengths, whatever way you take it. But I said, hey, Palam, if you allow me, can I look for a job outside? Because I understand your constraint. I think you can go ahead and appoint a logistic manager in India in Delhi, but I won't be able to shift. So he said, I can understand your constraints also, and you can go ahead. So I decided to look around and called Arun Vakil, my first mentor. So Arun Bhai said, Rajiv, there is an opportunity in Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and we are looking for a secretary there. Why don't you consider that? I said, done. I wanted to stay in Mumbai and I wanted to get out of Emery in any case because of these constraints and all that, and let them be free to choose somebody as logistic manager India. So I came to Indo-American Chamber. And Indo-American Chamber, the first, and there was as such no interview because all those people were known to me from my Indo-American Society days. So it was a red carpet there. But the challenges were that my predecessor had big time problems with the American consulate, and we had no relations with the US consulate. Our staff morale was very, very low. Our membership renewals were not happening, and on the contrary, members were leaving the association. And the fourth and the most important was we were in red. So the chamber was bleeding. And these were the challenges given to me and said, hey, Rajiv, welcome to the chamber. And these are on the platter, I'm giving you these problems. I said, fine. So got into it. Literally started building relations with the American consulate, with the consul generals, with the teams in the consulate, and multiple such things happened. And this was 1st February 1999. I joined Indo-American Chamber. And the journey started there. We turned around the chamber within a very short time. We introduced newer programs. We introduced multiple interactions with members. Members were enthusiastic. Everything started happening. The staff morale, and I could offer them the best of the jumps, the rise in their salaries, and they were amazingly happy. And it never happened in the history of the chamber, but it worked out there. Members were enthusiastic. I was selected by the US government to represent them on their international visitors program. And I was sent to America to promote Indo-American partnership and bilateral trades and things like that. So all that happened within a year. We started a franchisee association of India in the chamber, and Mr. C.Y. Pal, Chairman Cadbury's, he was heading it. And when I was in US in San Diego, there was a global meeting happening there, and I represented the chamber and got the India franchisee for the chamber of that franchisee association globally. And we had a great time within less than a year. And what happened was, that was the time when Harish Mehta offered me TIE. That was the time when I committed to TIE that, okay, I'll jump. This was less than a year. I had to tell the US government that, look, I may change by the time I come back. So I don't want you to send me as Indo-American Chamber and I return as TIE. I want to make it very clear. So they did some research on TIE and they still felt that Rajiv can contribute to Indo-US trade in any case, whether it's chamber or with TIE. So with that clear communication and no ambiguity, they re-nominated me and said, no, you can please go. So from Silicon Valley, from San Diego, I went to Silicon Valley. I attended a couple of TIE meetings. I got into the spirituality of TIE, came back and established TIE in the country. And then I told you about NASSCOM and the rest of the journey. So what I'm trying to tell you here, when you're talking of habit, one big thing that I learned through coincidences, through whatever you may call it, right? I never had a boss in my next cabin. He was always remote. So there was nobody to supervise me over my shoulder. And that put a lot of pressure on me, a lot of responsibility on me, a lot of accountability on me, a lot of ownership on me. And from the very beginning, when you look at Indo-American society, you look at even from when I was a medical representative. Now, you know medical representative, right? You are in the field and your company is somewhere and you are reporting and all those kind of stuff. So all my life, my bosses were never on my head. So, but all my jobs that I did, everybody would welcome me if I go back to them and say, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. Would you consider me? And everybody will welcome me, is because I left after checking with them that, look, this is the opportunity. I have never ditched a single organization and moved out without fulfilling my responsibility, without giving the second line of leadership into the organization. Even when at the chamber, when I left the chamber, I gave a strong recommendation of my colleague who can take over. So all those things would really help you, because here you are not self-centered. Here you are looking at how the other person will view you, not from any other point of view, but from the responsibility point of view, from the ownership point of view. And these are some of the habits that I have inculcated over a period of time. And that is really helping me all through my journey. So here I am.
Okay, so that means the freedom gives you the sense of responsibility also. Since your bosses are...
No, it's not also. It's not also. Freedom should give you the sense of responsibility. If freedom means, then, and I'll tell you, Saurabh, I think very interesting point that you have raised. I was talking to a couple of students in Surat, NIT Surat, and there were a couple of students we were like talking on entrepreneurship and all that. And I asked, how many of you want to become entrepreneur? And there were multiple hands were raised. So I said, why? I don't want a boss. I want to make money. I want to have the freedom. Now, if this is the concept with which you are entering or you are venturing into entrepreneurship, then you can't be successful. And let me tell you a story, and I love stories. So in my musical journey, right, I mean, the parallel track that we don't have time to discuss, but there's a parallel track where I started hosting shows and all that. There are many friends in the music industry. So Babulal Gandharv is one of those very dear friends. And Babulal Gandharv has invented an instrument called Bela Bahar. Bela Bahar is a combination of sarangi and violin. So one day he called me and he said, Rajiv, mera show hai, aap aoge? मैंने कहा, definitely, aap bulaye, hum na hai, will come. So I went. This was the show in the blind school at Dadar. And Babulalji was playing, and I was one of those who were listening and who were seeing also. Others were simply enjoying the music and listening. After the show, after his performance was over, I went to Babulalji and I asked him, I said, Babulalji, amazingly played. I have one question. He said, he asked me. I said, when you were playing, I was observing your face and expressions. Sometimes you were very happy while playing and sometimes you were like upset. Why? What was happening in your mind? So he said, Rajiv, very simple. Any good performer will have a listener in his ears. He will place a listener in his ears. When I was playing well, my listener was telling me that, hey, I'm doing a great job. So I was feeling very happy. But when I was making a mistake, he would reprimand me and say, hey, guy, you are making a mistake. And that was bringing those expressions on my face. A small incident, but great learning. That you must keep analyzing yourself. That freedom is bringing a lot of, like how Spider-Man says, right? Power brings responsibility. And that's exactly what happens any walk of life. When you get freedom, you have to kind of hold on to yourself and say, hey, what this means and how do I define my freedom? And when you are answerable, and that answerable word is very important. See, entrepreneurs today or budding entrepreneurs today think that when they have their own startup, they are not answerable. They don't realize that startup is a separate entity. And you as a founder or a co-founder or a CEO or whoever is reporting into that entity. Now, unless you have that reporting, your mental reporting, your commitment, your ownership to that entity, and that entity is very, very sacred. So every entrepreneur has to understand this thing very clearly, that you are not owning your company, you are reporting into your company, and that company is different. And therefore, you are equally responsible as the rest of the team. And unless everybody coincide and do the kind of synchronization of your act, the orchestra will become a noisy place where the instruments are being played randomly. You know, a startup is amazing, or any organization is a great orchestration. So when an individual is playing an instrument, it may be musical, it may not be, it may just produce sound. But when everybody, a coordinated effort is producing music, that orchestra, that is symphony. So a successful startup is always an amazing symphony. And when you look at that, you realize that, you know, this is the power of this organization, this is the power of the team, this is the power of commitment that you are seeing. And that's the beauty, that's the fun actually. Yeah.
Okay.